G'day, Threads here from me says. Now, I don't know if you've ever done driving in Australia or if you're not from Australia and you've done an Outback tour, but if you ever are driving around the Outback of Australia, you'll probably notice that a few drivers will wave at you. Like they're driving along, you'll come across them, you'll see them in the distance. When they get to within seeing distance, they'll give you a wave. Or an open palm, or a finger, or both fingers, or two fingers, or nod of the head, if you're lucky. And you think to yourself, oh, what are they doing? I don't know this person, but you just, what are they doing? Why are they waving at me? Anyway, they pass, and then another car comes along, and next thing you know, the person's doing it again. And then the third car comes along. But you might not get it from every single car, but you probably notice at least one in every 3 or 4 cars on a big outback highway are doing this. And before you know it, you are starting to go in return. I think it's a natural human instinct to respond to someone who's waving at you. But you're going to yourself, I don't know these people from a bar of soap. Why are they waving to me? And before you know it, you don't even really think about it. Like, you might come to the conclusion that it's just the way it is out here, and it actually just is. But do we actually really think about it? So before you know it, you're initiating the wave. You see a car and driving along, better wave to this guy. Hey man. Cool. Another car, hey. And you do it a fair few times and you feel pretty good. But then the next thing you know, you hit an outback town and you start doing it there, and then you don't get much of a response. And you go, what's going on there? Like, aren't the people that crossed me before from these little towns? Why aren't they doing it now? Well, that's what I'm going to try and get to the bottom of today. I don't know how much people discuss it, but it does raise a few issues as well. And I'm going to talk about them right now. I'm Threads. This is He Says. I joined this Facebook group after a long absence from Facebook, and the group is based around a town that I used to live in called Woomera. And I lived there for a couple of years, and it's a fairly unique town. Look it up on Wikipedia if you ever get a chance. It's got a long history. But in this particular case, a lot of people who used to live there formed this group on Facebook. And I joined the group because I got association with the town, and you feel like a bit of belonging going on here, so you join up. Anyway, I've been enjoying being part of this group. There's a lot of interesting things to talk about for this little town. But one of the latest posts which was raised, which kind of caused a little bit of controversy, but the original post said, I remember during trips to Port Augusta back in the early 80s that drivers would wave at one another as they passed each other. I'm wondering if they still do that. Well, to answer that question, yes, they still do it. Now, there was a lot of responses from this, and I actually gave a response as well. And considering what I said before, I responded by saying, I'm one of those drivers that don't give a wave. Even though I'm a country lad, I just don't see the point at waving at someone I don't know just because we both happen to be driving on an outback road. Now, that's my opinion, and everyone's entitled to their opinion, and not only that, I actually don't wave anymore. I got a little tired of doing it because you do it so often. And one day, I just said to myself, why am I doing this? I don't know the person at all from a bar of soap. They don't know me. Why are they actually doing this? Now, some of the people that responded also had a few theories. I'll give you a couple of examples. A lot of good bush drivers do, as I still do, but quite a few don't. Another person says, east, west, and north of Port Augusta, I always still wave. If they don't wave back, they get an alternative wave consisting of just one finger. So some people are pretty passionate about it. Another post said, still do when in the country or outback. It's always been hi and a way of saying I have your back, especially in remote areas. An acknowledgement that you're not alone out here in our big remote and country areas. It's also a courtesy to locals and reassuring to travellers. And another response was, I hope so. It's common courtesy in the bush. Now, when we talk about the bush, we're talking about areas out of the city that are rural areas, pretty much. The outback is a bit beyond that. We're talking open desert country, pretty much. And another response was saying that it was a polite thing to do a single finger raised off the steering wheel. It was common on all country roads. Australia still has it as soon as you turn off the highways. It's an acknowledgement of the fellow driver. And there's no bigger insult than snubbing someone in a country town. Safer to wave. So, why do people do this? Yep, some of them are being polite. It's you're on a big lonely road. You haven't really spoken to anyone or had any kind of human interaction. So, I guess it's quite reasonable to think that if you see another car in the same predicament as you, lonely and in the bush, then you'll give them a wave. You don't quite know though, honestly, if you think about it. If you give a wave to someone, do they actually know why you're waving? Do you have the intention of saying, g'day, how are you? We're both out here together, let's look out for each other and g'day. Very Aussie thing to do, very nice thing to do, but because you can't say that to the other person, the gesture of the wave is the only thing you can give. You kind of leave it up to a hope that the person in the other car understands the reason why you're doing it. But in all honesty, you have no idea how the person interprets what your wave is, because the person in the other car, like me, the first time I came across it, will be like, cool, hey man. Or, what's he waving for? And just keep driving. Not even acknowledgement or anything. Now, the other reason that was proposed in the group was it's to show that I've got your back and I'm going to look after you. Now, that sounds really altruistic. But when it comes down to the crux of it, I don't know if it actually is going to help anybody. For starters, you're both driving opposite directions. Yes, you've been on the road that's up ahead and you're signalling to the person going that way that the road is clear. But let's be honest, outback roads, pretty open, easy to see, long distances. If there's an incident up ahead and you're the driver, it's, you're pretty much going to see it. If there's like a whole bunch of cattle crossing the road, if there's been a car accident, if there's a flood or anything like that, you've got plenty of time to react. So I don't see it as going to be a big issue. There's definitely not going to be black ice or snow in the Australian bush. So highly unlikely that the wave is going to be interpreted as everything is clear up ahead, just in case you didn't notice. So nice and intention, though be honourable and admirable, I don't think it makes a complete difference at all to the respondent. But the single biggest issue I find is that people interpret if you don't wave as a sign of snobbishness or no respect, or you're not looking out for the other driver, but you got to be fair to the other driver. Australia is a big country and we've got a lot of different people from all over different areas, tourists from other parts of the world using these roads. And honestly, unless they've read the chapter in Lonely Planet or some tour guide book that talks about this exact thing, they're not going to respond. And if they do, it might be a token gesture. They're just doing it because it seems fun. But ultimately, they're not going to know if you're doing it because you're being polite, or whether there's trouble up ahead, or whether the road is clear. We all have different reasons and motivations for being on the road. Some of us have never travelled on the Outback Road, or let alone been culturally infused with what happens in the Outback. So you got to forgive them if they don't respond. So cut them some slack. By all means, wave. But if you're gonna get shitty with them about it because they didn't respond, probably think about maybe that they're just not used to it. Maybe they're not from the Outback. Maybe they're not from Australia. Maybe they were distracted by something else. Maybe there's a beautiful mountain off in the distance that they just happened to catch at the time you were crossing. Put those things in your head before you start criticising people for not doing it. It's a very old school way of thinking, in my opinion, but nonetheless, your intentions are good, then that is great. But if your intentions are good, but you're going to react in a negative way and then go online and say, oh, they're all idiots because they don't wave back. They're just not, our values have been destroyed. In the modern age, we just don't care about our fellow humans anymore. Well, maybe stop and think to yourself about the other car. Are they actually being rude? Maybe they were caught off guard. Maybe they were distracted. Maybe they're not from there. And maybe you're waving because it's a token gesture. You're just doing it out of habit, not because you actually care about the other driver. It's just the polite thing to do. Shallow politeness can only go so far, especially if you don't do it in town to someone you know. Because you may not do it in town because it's not done in towns. Who knows? They're the things you really should think about. Now, for me, I was doing it for a long time, waving to pretty much everybody. And after a while, it started to go, in my mind, why am I doing this? That person I'm waving at, if there's trouble up ahead, they're going to see it anyway, especially in a truck when they've got kilometres of field of view compared to someone low down in a car. And you're driving along and you're doing it all the time and you start to go, why am I doing this? And sometimes I had my hands down at the bottom of the steering wheel and I'm just raising my finger. I'm doing it, but the other driver's not even seeing it. So I'm like, why am I even doing this? And after a while, I just stopped doing it. I realized it felt impersonal. It felt like I wasn't providing a service of safety to anybody on the roads, and especially if I don't know the person. And when I thought about it, at the end of our journeys, we're going to be hundreds of kilometers apart and we will never see each other again. We'll never interact as humans and we will never evolve a friendship or anything. So it's kind of felt like a token gesture, completely empty, an empty gesture. And who really wants that? So if you're going to wave, by all means do it. You might be a really nice person. But if they don't respond, then please don't judge that person harshly. We are a big country, a multicultural country. We open the doors to tourism. We have many different people from many different backgrounds with the ability now to get in a car and drive from one end of the country to the other via the Nullarbor Plain, the Stewart Highway, the Bruce Highway, you name it. Our roads are huge, but it doesn't mean that everybody is culturally infused in the Outback. It may be a dying thing and it may be sentimental for some people that it's not happening anymore, but please control your reactions a bit for people who don't do it. They're just normal people. They're just trying to get from A to B. And maybe if they wave back, that's great. But did that really mean anything either? These are the things you have to think about. So go easy on us, town folk, city folk. And I wish you all the very best driving anyway. But just chill out a bit on the roads in Australia. We're all good people at heart. And with that, I'd like to say thank you for watching. If you've got an opinion on it, leave them in the comments. If you've had an experience, then share it with us by all means. I'll definitely get around to try and reading them. And if you like this video, then please hit the subscribe button and we'll look out for more content in the future. And if you've got any ideas of things that you'd like to talk about, please let me know in the comments and maybe one day it'll be in the next video. I'm Threads. Have a good one.